Today I have 3 more Lost Media stories that you guys submitted, a trio of games. First we've got a Howie Mandel game, an old one from back before he was happy-go-lucky Lex Luthor and more of goth Jerry Seinfeld. We've got a Myst-like point-and-click game called Noah's Ark. And we've also got a snake-like game that may or may not be called Ibid, we're not really sure. And of course, remember, if you have a story that you want me to cover for this series, send an email to whanglostmedia@gmail.com. This one was sent to me by a user of the Lost Media Wiki forums, Tusaki368. It's a game called Noah's Ark. And at first, like me, you hear Noah's Ark and you probably think of the old Super NES game, Super Noah's Ark 3D, which ironically is basically the opposite of Lost Media. One of the few obscure games from back then you can actually still buy from the original publisher. But no, this is a totally different Noah's Ark. This one's a 1995 point-and-click adventure made by NEC Interchannel and Pro4 System. And it's along the vein of Myst, or from what I've seen, it actually looks even more like the Journeyman project, which is a little bit more obscure, but I love that game back in the day. It's just a really cool style of game that was very much of its time. In Tusaki368's original post on the forums, he mentions that he had first read about the game on 4chan's X board, which they were discussing the game having something to do with reptilians or the Illuminati. You know, standard X fare. And of course, this being X, the whole thing might have been some kind of a hoax. But archive links of the official site for this game were posted in both Japanese and English. And these archives go back as far as 1998. So if this was fake, it would have to be a really long con. On the site, a single screenshot is provided along with the box art, and the game is described as follows. The mystery becomes even more mysterious each time you solve it. A huge tower suddenly appeared in front of human beings who are planning to move to Mars. The mystery of creation, far beyond the wisdom of humankind, was hidden there. Story 2100 years. Human beings on the verge of environmental destruction and population explosion were promoting terraforming on Mars for migration. However, just before the completion of the planet base, a huge tower suddenly appeared from the ground. As a result of the investigation, it was found that the building was built about 5 billion years ago and has 7 levels inside. Who left this tower for what? In order to unravel the mystery, the investigation team infiltrates the inside of the tower. Can Mars become the new Noah's Ark for humankind? There's not much else on the site except a few credits, but there are some clues that have been gained from these credits. In particular, 2 names. Kenichi Shigeto, who is the game's artist, and Kazuhiro Nishimatsu, who is the game's composer. Although neither man has the game listed in their credits online, both of them do have a number of video games under their belts. Another poster, Peachy Keen, found a Japanese Yahoo auctions listing for the game, which was sold for a mere 1,000 yen a few months prior, basically like 10 bucks. To which Tusaki lamented that he had known about the game at this time, just didn't see the auction or he would have bought it immediately. In any case, the listing did have better pictures of the game's box and its contents, which had more screenshots than what was on the game's site. Another user, Tomato Pasta, began to look into the developer Pro4 System, but found little to no information about them except for a few games made between 1995 and 1996. These games graphically resemble Noah's Ark a lot, and they include this weird wrestling game called Wrestling Life. On a Japanese website, 4gamer.net, one of the writers was on a search of his own for this game. Life Wrestling, the song of professional wrestling, or something to that effect. He mentions that it was brought up in an interview he had done prior with the wrestler Danshoku Dino, and his mention of it opened up this long-lost memory of his. And now he had to find this game. So he starts it a lot like this, looking for information about Pro4 System, but he too can't find much about them. Although eventually this writer would succeed in finding the game. A bit later on, Tusaki would manage to get in contact with one of the men involved in the game, Kenichi Shigeto, and Kenichi responded. Unfortunately, he did not have any ROMs or any kind of files left over from the game. I mean, it had been so long since he'd worked on it. And also, he had no contact from anybody involved in the company. which makes a lot of sense because it seems like everyone who worked for this company was just temporarily contracted. Meanwhile, Tomato Pasta went through several magazine scans and even reconstructed the Pro4 system logo in an attempt to reverse image search and find something. Although they found that there was a ton of NEC coverage in PC Engine Fan, none of this led to securing a copy of the game or finding any information about it. And this leads to Tsusaki emailing me about it for this series. I'm confident in saying that this game probably definitely does exist. And I imagine that if I have viewers in Japan, they'll probably have a much easier time finding the game somehow. As seen by that auction that was just a few months ago, it definitely is in circulation somehow. But the language gap, combined with the fact that searching for something like Noah's Ark is kind of difficult. I mean, most searches for it will lead you to Bible stuff, and if you're looking for a Noah's Ark game, you're probably going to find Noah's Ark 3D. But I love these kinds of games, so I'm really curious to see how this one was. The educational video games we grew up with always have a very special nostalgic place in our hearts. I remember several years back, I was at a friend's house and we were playing Halo. This is how long ago, like Halo 1 was the newest Halo, and we'll all have our Xboxes land, playing Halo at this guy's house. We take a break to get something to eat, and my friends are like, hey, do you remember Gertrude's Secrets, which was this game we used to play at school on the Commodore computers they had. We spent a bunch of time trying to find Gertrude's Secrets, getting to work, and we're all there playing the stupid goose, playing math and fucking reading games. It was not a good game. Halo was much better, but, you know, it was still cool to see that fragment of your childhood once again. And that brings me to a message I received from someone named Space Ghost. Space Ghost asked me for help finding a childhood game named Little Howie's Great Reading Adventure, starring one Howie Mandel. Now, it seems to me like a lot of people, when they think of Howie Mandel, I guess they imagine him being this guy who just materialized into existence in 2003 with Deal or No Deal. I mean, my mind was blown when I played Warzone with Mutahar and Critical and Hugbees, and none of them had ever heard of Bobby's World.
Spawn campus, Bobby Generic.
Who is this Bobby Generic?
You don't know Bobby Generic?
Teaching aid? No.
You never watched Bobby's World? I can't. So neither of you guys know Bobby's World.
No, I know of it.
What the fuck is Bobby's World?
You don't know Bobby's World either? What the fuck? What the fuck? How do people not know Bobby's World?
That was wild to me. Hopefully you guys know what Bobby's World is. But on some level, it does make sense to not make the Howie Mandel connection, because at some point he kind of reappears with his bald head looking like a totally new guy. But believe me, Howie Mandel was a force in the 90s. Bobby's World was very successful, ran from 1992 to 1998, had a Super NES game, tons of merchandise, and in the middle of the Bobby's World run, Howie Mandel has something else going on, the Little Howie series. And though Little Howie is not what he calls his dick, at least not to my knowledge, it's a cartoon bear that teaches you math and reading and all that kind of stuff. Voiced, of course, by Howie Mandel. These games were produced by 7th Level, who made a lot of licensed games like Ace Ventura, Tamagotchi CD-ROM, and Monty Python's Complete Waste of Time. And this particular series begins with a game called Toonland. Released in 1993, this one's a musical point-and-click adventure game that takes place in Old MacDonald's farm. There's a bunch of different locations on Old MacDonald's farm, and Little Howie plays hide-and-seek in them. And when you interact with objects to look for him, his animal friends sing children's songs for you, like This Old Man and Hey Diddle Diddle. This game winds up being a critical and commercial success, leading to more sequels, including Little Howie's Great Word Adventure, Little Howie's Great Math Adventure, and Little Howie's Great Reading Adventure. But here's where it gets weird. Toonland, Little Howie's Great Word Adventure, Little Howie's Great Math Adventure, they're all pretty easily found. They're around on abandonware sites, and they pop up on eBay relatively often. And if you look these games up on YouTube, there's tons of playthroughs. But if you look up Little Howie's Great Reading Adventure, there's no playthroughs. There's no eBay listings. And the only place that I could find it for download was an incredibly sketchy website called Yo PC Games that claims the game is for Windows 10, and it's very clearly not. It's very obviously just a virus scan site. If you go looking for this game and you find this website, please do not download anything from it, I implore you. Something else to note is an r/lost media post by user DuckNeither about this game. In it, he mentioned that as a child he had Great Word Adventure, Math Adventure, and Toonland, but he did not have Great Reading Adventure. And not only that, didn't remember any mention of it at all in any of the advertising materials that came with the games. That information, combined with how much easier it is to find anything about the 3 other games than it is to find anything about Great Reading Adventure, made me think that perhaps this game never actually came out. But that being said, there is some evidence that it did come out. A Redditor named Generic Lad did manage to find a very broken archived description of Reading Adventure on the Kids World website, which was a division of 7th level. And there are a few instances online of people claiming to have played this game. Although I think there is a chance that they might have been thinking of the Great Word Adventure. But finally, to me, the biggest piece of evidence for this game having actually existed in the world is from an out-of-stock Amazon listing. On the listing, it shows a picture of the game inside of a jewel case, which implies that it was released in a jewel case in some form at some point in time. Something else that I noticed about this series of games is that it seems like they were released in various different bundles. Sometimes you'd get them individually, sometimes you'd have Toonland and Word Adventure on the same disc, or Toonland and Math Adventure on the same disc, or Math Adventure and Word Adventure on the same disc. I haven't seen Reading Adventure on any of these discs, but it could have been a part of a different bundle. In any case, one of the commenters, 2000 Silent Film Star, nailed it. If it's out there, you probably just gotta hope you get lucky at a yard sale or something. The last game for this episode is probably the most mysterious out of all of them. We have an idea of what it might be, but no idea of what it really is.
What?
And this one was sent to me by Bluesfeel. Hello Whang, me and my brother remember playing this old snake-like game on our school's computer back in the day. It was a snake game that my brother recalls was for DOS. He remembers playing back in '96, while I remember playing it around the year 2000. It had several fun gimmicks you really don't find in any snake game, and I thought it was ingenious and fun, such as one-way blocks, teleporters, doors, as well as things to collect. My brother remembers many more details, even level designs. I just remember playing it and having loads of fun. My brother recalls a name like Ibid or something like that, when typing on the computer to play the game. He also remembers a logo of a company similar to a steamed ham or leg. And I'm assuming that this person is not from Utica, so I think by steamed ham he means like a cooked pig and not, you know, a crusty burger. Like one of these bad boys. In a post he made on r/tip of my joystick, he mentions that graphically it looked like a TurboGrafx game. So think 16-bit. He also said the snake was red, the background was blue, the blocks that made the walls were magenta or purple, and the collectibles were green. When you get all of the green items, a door opens and you proceed to the next level. When I was reading his description, something that came to my head was the game Tutankhamun. This is a game that I play constantly at Barcade. So Tutankhamun is from 1982, so we don't quite have TurboGrafx graphics yet. And it's not a snake game, although it has snakes in it. But it fits so many of the other descriptors to me. The blue background, the purple or magenta blocks, your character with his big red hat, and the teleporters. And then at the end of the stage, you unlock the door to exit. In fact, while I was writing this, I sent him a reply email just asking him, even though, you know, it's probably not, if it's Tutankhamun. Because sometimes memory is funny that it might make something seem a little different from how it actually was. But he replied a little while ago, actually, and just said, oh, it's not Tutankhamun. And a big problem with it not matching up was similar to another suggestion someone had made, Nibbly96, in that the stages in the game he remembers were much more wide open and not just one tile wide paths. Another poster, BDR76, linked Moby Games' list of snake-like games, but none of the games in the list were the right game. The closest he found was a DOS game called Nibbles, with this image being close to an early level he remembered. So we went and checked out some remakes of Nibbles, but none of them matched up with what he remembered. In particular, they were all missing the open levels and or the gimmicks he remembered. And he did have one more big clue in a follow-up comment. He suspects it might have been an included game in the system back then, as he remembered every computer at school having it. We are also from Mexico, so maybe that can narrow it down further. So this was a game that was commonly found in computers at schools in Mexico. And once again, remember the time frame between 96 and 2000. It doesn't necessarily mean that the game is from Mexico, but at the very least you have this school where every computer had this game. And I would imagine that many schools would be using the same computers, so it was probably in a lot of schools in Mexico. So if any of you are watching from Mexico, let me know if this jogs something in your memory. In his email to me, Bluesfield noted that he's now a game designer himself, and a lot of what he remembers from this game helped to inspire his design philosophy. So it would be cool to be able to see this game and see what was so great about it. But anyway, that concludes all the lost media stories for this episode. Before I go, I just want to give you a heads up. My band Jinx is about to go on tour with Attila and Dead Crown very soon. Depending on when this video is done being edited, we might already be out. Tickets are on sale, so come say hi. And I do have videos that I still will be working on while I'm out, so look forward to those, as well as I'll probably be doing some more casual Instagram streams while I'm away, so go follow me on there. Anyway, if you like this video, be sure to check out my old video about the unreleased Reebok NES game, Drax Night Out. Bye-bye.